Very much welcome to tonight's webinar, all today about Integromat and Monday in combination, and actually building on top of the capabilities which are already good with Monday, but that can be fantastic. Bit of use of Integromat magic on the side as well. So stick around for towards the end, and I will also share with you a rather nice little present at the end. And this is only for those of you who are actually here with us tonight. Most of you know me. I'm Fredrik Castenholm. I'm the CRO. That means I'm the head of sales and marketing, basically, here at Omnitas. And with me here today is Viggo Kalendaridis, which is one of our main top guys when it comes to automation, and especially automation in Integromat. Viggo, do present yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. We're very happy. Yeah, nice meeting you all. Some of you might recognize me from other webinars as well. I was attending, I had one together with Thomas last week, for example. I had another webinar in September and one in June, but the one in June was in Swedish. So some of you might recognize me already from that.
Exactly. You joined Thomas for his last webinar, and then you and me did the Fort Knox one way back when, yes. You are a repeat customer here with us.
Yeah, good say.
So we ain't going to take up your time much more. With that, Viggo, want to take us away?
Yeah, sure. So let's get started. First, let's talk about why we're having this webinar. Monday automations, they can do a lot. But we all of us who use Monday, we also sometimes run into the limitations of the native automations, where you think that, okay, if I could just add this one single thing to the automation, then all of this would be perfect, right?
Oh yeah, I've done that so many times.
Right.
Why can't I do this?
Yeah, so that is why this possibility exists, integrating with the Integromat as well, so that we can extend the breadth of automations that are possible for us.
And even impart completely new logic. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And the second reason then would be that sometimes you need to click a lot in a board, that you have a lot of columns that are, for some reason, not able to automate with each other, and so on and so on. And then you need to also fill in, like, for example, if you have we will look at this later, if you have a project board and you want to connect all of these items to a specific high level, all of these kind of repetitive tasks, we can build an Integromat scenario for and run it once, just to have the task over with. So similar to how you would run a script if you're into programming and that kind of stuff. The third reason, main reason at least, would be that sometimes the Monday integrations are not complex enough. For example, if you integrate with, we will not do this a lot today, but for example, if you integrate with for example, Facebook leads, then maybe the new very nice Facebook lead integration, I mean, it could fulfill most of what you want to do, but maybe you also want to pull in fields in a kind of different way, or with a mapping that is not exactly what Monday offers, or what you want to do some kind of calculation.
I have one for you.
Yeah.
With the automation builder within Monday, you can do and functionality, right? But you can't do if or else.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. So then we can make more complex automations and integrations with Integromat as well. And also, one thing that is very nice is that we can have no limits on which board we can fetch the information and put it in as well, while Monday is a little bit more limited on it. So yeah, basically we can do these impossible automations, and you can see here that I put this in a bracket because we will not go through it that much today. Instead, we will focus on these first two capabilities that Integromat offers together with Monday. Integromat then, for those of you who have not used it before, it is a tool where you could kind of manipulate any Monday data. You can receive a webhook signal from Monday in the same way from a starter change or from a column change, in the same way that you would from an automation, and from then you could do all kinds of stuff. So we have a few some real world examples here. One is that is simply scheduled that straight after midnight, it starts a certain chain of events. That is the most simple scenario I've ever built.
It's one thing. Do this.
Just one thing, and it's scheduled for a specific date and a specific time. Then we have more advanced ones. The largest we built was actually not this one with 275. Right before this webinar, we found an even bigger one that I had created that I totally forgot about. How big was that? Over 300 something?
322 modules. So to explain a bit to all of you what you're actually looking at, all those colorful blobs is one module. So basically, if we take the middle kind of one, we first have a webhook, then we have a data retrieve, a set of 3 data retrievers from Monday, which we route to different places and spread out information, stuff like that. So they can get very, very large.
Yeah. So here, for example, I mean, in this scenario that we see here in front of us, then it will always go through these 4 first modules, and then it will pick a route and go through 4 more before it ends. But as you can see, then these can be quite large and in a huge spider net, which is the one with a 300 something was, for example, where we needed to check for a lot of conditionals, for a lot of data before ending up where we actually wanted to end up.
To write data in the end.
Yeah, it also took a while for me to build that for over 300. I don't know how many hours, I didn't count. So anyway, that's a brief introduction.
So basically, for those of you who are completely new to Integromat, it's a tool to integrate between different stuff, but also we can basically integrate Monday into itself, and in the loop there, add in extra logic which Monday doesn't contain itself.
Correct. And I mean, right now we're talking about high picture stuff. We're looking at this. We will get down and into the specifics in a short while. So don't worry about that if you don't get it right now. So let's start with a simple automation where we pull the item name in a Monday board and we update it with another column field. I will show you in an example here.
So actually, to explain to all of you where Viggo is going with this, we are actually going to show you how to do this within Integromat.
Correct.
So it's not showing you what can be done, it's actually showing you how to do it.
So I will share my screen here now, and we can have a look at a Monday board that I have prepared. So here we have a field in Monday called project ID. So my idea here is that we would fill in the project idea, and then so let's say that I fill this with a number like this, 0001, and then automatically we want this to fill in project name. Too many zeros, as you know. So let's create that one together, so we don't have to do that manually. The first thing we do is that we open Integromat, also prepared here, and we go and open a new scenario. I'm just going to call it scenario 1 for now. So first thing we want to do is to receive a signal from Monday. What we will use then is the webhook module, not the Monday module at this stage. Instead, we will click on webhook down here and create a new custom webhook. We will add it and we call it scenario 1. I usually take the same as the scenario name so I know where it belongs. And now it has created a webhook, but the webhook also received a URL endpoint, for those of you who know what that is. But that is basically a
where to send information,
where Monday will send a signal to. So you can see that Monday will send it to integromat.com/a impossible to remember ID. So we will copy this address to the clipboard by clicking here. And then we will go back into Monday and we will tell Monday when to send this signal. We'll click on, in the integrations view here in Monday, we will click on webhooks. And we want it to be triggered when a column changes. So directly when I put in a new project ID, I want it directly to just end up in front of the name. So we click on that one and we I always use another account, even though it's in the list here, because it's impossible to find the right one in the list. And I put my webhook in here, right? So I copy, paste it there. I paste it in here, and I click connect. So now Monday knows where to send the signal, and now it asks me, when do you want to send it? I say, when we change this column and the product ID, and then we click add to board. Great, it's set up in Monday. But we could see here that it's still listening inside of Integromat for the signal to be sent. So let's remove the old, or let's add a product ID here, which would then send the signal to Integromat that is right now listening. Seems to take a little while sometimes. I did put it on. Oh yeah, there we go.
You didn't run it.
No, but it should just listen at this stage. Yeah, and now, as you said, Fredrik, we want to run it in order to get the right metadata into the module. Right, this is a module, as I told you earlier. And I will show you later why we want metadata in here. So I will again trigger it by removing this value, because that is also the same as changing it. And then I will see when it pops into Integromat. Sometimes it takes a little while. First of all, the metadata is what appears here. So now we receive the signal, we want to see what it contains, then we click on this thought bubble up here, and we can see that this is basically a tree of data. So we see that the user ID of me who sent the signal, or my user within monday.com. We see the name of the project here, project XYZ. It's the same as the one in Monday, project XYZ. We also get something called, and this is very important, Pulse ID. That's the one that we're going to use now. We get the column ID text where I put the, it's basically where I put the, you can also see the column ID here if you have the developer mode on in Monday. So you know the exact ID for the column inside this board. And you get the title. And of course, we get the value, which is empty because I removed a value. And then the previous value, which was 0002, the one that I removed. I will try to remember not to speak so quickly now. So now we will change something within Monday. So what we do is that we click on add another module and we search for Monday here. If we find it, then I click on it. What I want to do is to update a specific column. So I click on update column values of a specific item. I go and select demo 1 here. Good. For the connection, you can have several connections to several Monday accounts here, which we do at Omnitas. Board ID. So now I want to select the project overview. I'm going to call it webinar. I will update the list of boards, because what's nice in Integromat is that they actually get the names of the boards like this. So I can just type in PR to get to project, and we see project overview webinar here, and I click on it. And here we will start loading all the metadata for that board. First, I will map in the item ID. It's the same as the Pulse ID. That's why I said it was important earlier. So in order to change the same row that we actually sent a signal from, then we need to select the Pulse ID from the metadata that we received. And then what I want to change is what I specify here. So I want to change the name of the row. And I want it to become the new value, which is actually, I want new metadata in here. So I'm going to run it one more time. I process the existing webhook because now I will see metadata from when I add a value instead, which is a bit more pedagogical compared to using functions to retrieve it. So in here we have the new value 0002. It gives me also an example, which is very nice. And I put it in here, and then I want to have a space dash space. And then I want it to say the same Pulse name again, project XYZ. Good. And I click add, and I click OK. And so this is basically it. I'm going to save this now, and then I'm going to put it on. So at any point now, it will run immediately. So let's go back to Monday and do that. I'm going to put in 0003 here for the third row. And maybe I'll put in 0004.
There you see it
and
populated.
you see the magic happen. So we get 003, Project Fantastic, for example. And 04, Project Romeo, and so on. So that's it. That's the first integration or automation, whatever you want to call it. Have we received any questions so far for it?
No, just oohs and ahs.
Great. So let's pause the sharing for a little bit and look again at the next automation that we're going to do. Yeah, this would be an example of what we could do with Integromat as well, which is to quickly do to quickly fill in for a lot of items a specific value. So in this example, then let me share the screen again. Yeah, let's just empty all these projects instead, and then we can show you how to fill them in. Even though we can do this specific thing with batch action, there are other specific scenarios where we want to do this dynamically, and that's why it's always good to learn how to do it in Integromat, so later you can do it with different conditionals as well, based on routes. But just to give you now a quick overview on how to fill in some values, then we will select here a Monday module. For example, list. In this case, I want to list all the board's item. And the board is called Project Manovino Project Board. So I will go to demo 1 and put a limit on basically unlimited. Project board Manovino, where do we have it? There. And here I want to output, in order to save some time when we run it, I'm only gonna output the actual column that I'm later gonna change. What was it called again? It's called project overview column. Okay. There we go. Add, and here we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna manipulate that column by updating it. Again, I select the update column values of a specific item module, and I select demo 1. And it will be the same board, project Manovino. And the item ID, of course, will be dynamic based on the ID that we're gonna iterate through. So to give a little bit of background here, what this list board's item module do is that it will get all the items from a specific board, in this case our project board, and iterate through them and send one at a time to the next module. And here in this module, we want to change the project overview and in it add a specific item. Let's see here. We will add this one, Project Manovino, or we could map the exact item ID like this, which is the way I prefer it, because then you can do it more dynamic, right? And if you want to add more than just one item, then you could map in a whole array of items in here. For those of you that are advanced enough to know about arrays in the Integromat. But in order to go through that now, I would need a whole second webinar, to be honest. So, okay. Now what we will do is one by one, we will fill in the items here with that specific link back to the overview, to Manovino in the overview through this link column. I'm just going to run it. And here we see that it ticks one at a time. And we can also see it in the board where it just appears like that. And that is the basic principle behind how you could add values into a board without clicking or copy pasting or doing anything. It goes the same for example, if you have a Google sheet or an Excel sheet and then you want to map that into a Monday board, then you do the same principle. It's just that you iterate through the sheet row-wise instead, and then you find the correct item and fill in the value. So that was the shortest kind of introduction to how to do that. And then you can just build on it. Anything else that we have here? Any other questions, Fredrik?
We actually got a question. We can take it now in kind of an interval. And it's Huang who wonders if there's a weekday functionality like you find in Excel or actually in Monday within that you can use from within Integromat.
Integromat itself doesn't really have a weekday function, but I mean, it is something that you could calculate with the help of different functions inside Integromat. I've done that myself. So, for example, if you have a time span of X amount of days, then you know that you always subtract 2 of them. And then if you have, for example, of a specific holiday, maybe January 1st, then you can see the order of the days during the year. And the first day, of course, is January 1st, and you know that one should be subtracted always, and so on and so on. So it's a lot of you put a lot of if functions in there, which you can do in Integromat. But that function itself is not present, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I know Lucas actually built that functionality for me and a client just recently, where we actually picked out. So they have a very strict schedule that starts. So they know that certain things should always take place on the project day with a certain number. So project day 1 will always be the first day of the project, whether it's a Monday or a Friday. Then project day 2 should not, if project day 1 is a Friday, project day 2 is actually the Saturday, it's the Monday. So we needed to like loop those in and actually count that, and that is
but you're straight on point that one. It's basically if else. Okay, let's check the other impossible automation.
Yeah, and to answer you, Juan, it's very, very doable, and Lucas did it for me rather quickly. So when you got a hang of it, you can sort it out.
Exactly. So let's Monday have amazing formula columns, but sometimes for certain widgets or use cases, or even Monday's own automations, then you need to have number column instead. And it's difficult to do that calculation by hand for all the items. So instead, we will do that with Integromat. So we will do a formula that takes true values and put it in another number column. So let's get to it. We want to calculate the budget. Here we have a formula column that calculates approved budget minus total expense. We want to do the same, but put the result here in a number column instead. Here we have project budget and total expense are here. This is a quite advanced one then, because then you would need to also go to the board beneath and summarize all those numbers. But sure, let's do it. So scenario number 3, I'm going to do this a little bit more quicker now so that hopefully we can have time to do another scenario as well.
Huang asks if Integromat can actually operate towards sub-items.
Yeah, it can as well.
That's actually basically what Viggo is all about doing right now. So
in a way, yeah. I mean, the principle is the same. First of all, you can get the trigger from sub-item with both these webhooks here. But also you could find sub-items through the principle that I will show you quite soon. On how to find sub-item and pull the data from there. So I will put this on when you change the budget. I know it's not the best trigger, but for now it will do. And we are then going to, it's listening, good. So then we're gonna change this to 450,000, great. Then we're gonna pull through a Monday module. We're gonna get the whole row. So we get an item. It's a very useful, this is a very useful module that I like a lot, that you just get the ID and you get the item with all its column values, right? And from there you can do whatever you want, really. So now I'm gonna run this once in order just to get an item. And some metadata in here. As you can see, I get all the item values like this, and here you have the column ID I mentioned earlier, text, and you can see that it contains this number here. And here we also have connect boards, which is why I'm actually gonna trigger this again, but on this one here instead. that have all the connections that we did earlier with Integromat. And from here we can see that the connect board is now filled with a lot of linked pulse IDs. So it's just the ID of the underlying pulse, and that's also how you find then the sub-items, because they are in a similar column as a connect board. We want to iterate these connections, so we put in the whole array. An array is it's a list of IDs in this case. And then for each of those, we want to get the underlying item in the other board. Notice now that I'm actually going into the other board and fetching one item at a time here.
Just to slow down because we had a bit of a video lag, but what Viggo did was he is yet again getting an item.
Yeah, I'm getting an item. In this case, I'm getting the underlying linked item. So for example, I will get each of these 25 items now. As you can see here, it just iterates through each item like that. Very nice. We can stop it. And then we're gonna put these together with a numeric aggregator. So that will be, again, summarizing all the items. I'm gonna use sum in this case. You see that we have other functions too. And we're gonna summarize the expenses. So we select the expenses here. Good. So this will output a sum of all the expenses. And then we wanna put that back on the original item where we triggered it. So in the project overview, we want to put it in the right number column. So we once again select the project overview, webinar, and we map in the pulse ID. And here we select the column called budget left. And here we also put the result or the numeric aggregation. And we click on add and we click OK. And we test it out. So let's put it on. There we go. So now it's activated. This will take a little bit longer because as you can see, when it iterates, it takes about a second for each of these items. So it might take 25 seconds for this now to fill in this budget left column here. I'm gonna clear it so that it's empty. You see that budget left has nothing in it right now, and it's a numbers column. Let's trigger it by putting 220. I almost forgot. Actually, we don't want to put the result in there. We want to put the result minus, or we want to put the budget minus the result, right? We want to do a calculation.
That would help.
That part now. So we have the numbers, which is, in this case, the approved budget. Yeah, it has the ID numbers here. Good. So then we go back here and we put the numbers. And then we select mathematical functions. Up here, we have a bunch of nice functions. Here we have mathematical ones, plus, minus, and so on. Here we have for text, for dates, and also for arrays. For those of you that want to progress later, then use a lot of functions. It's a very nice feature that makes Integromat very powerful. Okay, now let's trigger it. Okay, so let's put 220,000 here, and let's have it collect the result. So right now, if we, you can see that the status of Integromat says running here. Even though I'm not inside Integromat now myself, and but it is running in the background. And now that I updated the page, I can also say that it's a success, and it took 11 seconds for it to go through all the items and put back the result here, which is 220,000 minus the total expense, which we can see here in the mirror column, 62,500. So it was put there by Integromat, which is quite nice. And it's a numbers column, so we can do pivot table and everything on it. So yeah, do we have any questions so far on that, Fredrik?
No, we've got even more woos and wahs, and I think Huang is about to explode over there.
So nice to see. Yeah.
Now Huang says currently a lot of mine of his scenarios is actually having to have a spreadsheet in between. But well, yeah. Now you know how to ditch that spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, having a spreadsheet is okay as a data dump, or if you want, full data from that as well. But in general, you would not need to have it for this use case. Let's progress and look at how to do this again, but in another currency. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go back to Integromat here, and I'm gonna hold Shift and click on all these.
We can't see your screen, mate.
Oh, sorry. So I'm gonna go back to scenario number 3, the one that I just created. I'm gonna hold Shift and I'm gonna click on each of these modules. And then I'm gonna right click and copy modules. And then I go to scenario 4 and I open it. And in here, I'm gonna just paste all the modules. There we go, basically a copy. Then I'm gonna take the trigger, put it here. I'm gonna delete that one. I go back to scenario 3. I'm gonna shut this off because we want to use the same webhook. So we're gonna do the same now, but we're gonna also make a currency conversion before putting it back into the numbers column. And we're gonna do it in a separate numbers column as well. So I'm gonna click here on add, and I'm gonna search for currency. And there we go. So Integromat has a built-in currency function here that you can use. Convert an amount, sure. And here we have amount, which is again, okay, let's get some metadata in here. Let's remove this and then get the metadata in here. Here we're gonna do 200,000 and we get the webhook. We could stop that there. Great. So here, we once again in the amount, we take the numbers column, we take it minus the result of our iteration. The input currency, we had it in US dollar there, and we're gonna output it in Swedish krona because we are Swedish here at Omnitas. And then we're gonna input it in another column that I prepared here called budget left in Swedish krona, SEK. So both put it in the budget left column and in the budget left SEK column. So they are both clear now. And I already specified the budget left column. And now I'm gonna add also the budget left in SEK. And I put the result amount in output currency here. I could also pull the exchange rate if I want to save that, on the project row just to see what that was, but I'm not going to do it right now. Or if I want to use it for a native Monday formula column. So let's click OK.
Yeah, and one thing that you are doing a lot of currency exchange rates and stuff like that. When stuff is final, be sure to make sure it doesn't update the currency because your financials will not be complete after that one if it just continues on.
Exactly. That is why it's a bad webhook to have it on the approved budget, maybe.
Yeah.
Because you want to do it when a project is finished. So maybe at project close status change, then you want to do this where you get the whole difference over in local currency, so you can keep it in your books and so on. Bookkeeping, it's called. Okay, let's activate this scenario. Make sure that the last one is deactivated. Very good. And then we once again trigger the webhook. You can see that both of these are empty. And I'm going to trigger the webhook over here. 220,000, enter. And over here, we will just wait for the results to pop in on these ones. 11 seconds last time. Oh, I think it took the same now. Yeah, so here you can see 82,500 left of the budget. And in Swedish kroner, that's 706,287.79 kroner. Yeah, simple as that.
And that would actually be correct with today's currency rate. So perfect.
So yeah, the currency converter is quite nice for a lot of use cases as well. Let's proceed to mandatory fields. I mean, this is something that a lot of our clients are asking for. Like, could we have that this needs to be filled in before we can change the status to something else? And that is something that we could solve with Integromat, kind of. Because what we could do is a certain field is not filled in, then Integromat can change back the status again to the previous value. So Let's have a look again in our project overview here, where I'm gonna do this. So we have budget approved, project approved budget. Let's say that in order to go from planning, or in order to go to execution, you need to have that filled in. So let's empty it. There we go. And then let's go back to Integromat, fifth scenario, and we're gonna put in webhook. We're gonna spell it correctly. There we go.
I have found out that it's much easier to find when you actually spell it correctly.
Yeah, you have a point.
Yeah, because I'm the master of misspellings myself. So.
Yeah. So scenario 5, we set up a new webhook. Same procedure as earlier. Only difference is that it will be on a status change instead. So I select when a status change of something and a webhook. Okay. Always use another account. Always paste the URL, even if it's the same. And we go for on project phase, and we select when it goes to execution, send webhook. That's the trigger that we want. Good. And now I'm gonna trigger it once. There we go. And we will receive this there. Perfect. And now we can start doing the Monday stuff. So Monday module, get an item. There we go. And we once again select our connection, and we select our pulse ID to get the item, so we can check for certain values. Good. And then we're gonna update the column values if a certain criteria is not met. So we're gonna update it again to I will explain as I do it. So we go back to project overview. We select the same item by pulse ID. We are going to update the status column, project phase, to a label, which is mapped in as the previous value label text. So the webhook gives us two values, as I said earlier. It gives us a value, which is the new value that we put in, and a previous value. So if I click OK and OK, so now what this webhook or this scenario will do so far, without any conditionals, if I go from planning or any status to execution, it will change it back again, the old value, to planning in this case. But I only want this to happen in certain cases, and that's where we start using filters. Filters are, in my opinion, next to functions here. Then filters are the most valuable part of Integromat, because here I say that.
We go show again where you clicked.
Sure. I'm also gonna first I'm gonna put some data in here. Sorry. There we go. So where I clicked was in between the two modules. Here we can say that it can only take this route if a certain criteria is met. In this case, you have to have numbers, which we know is the approved budgets column. It should not exist, because then we change it back. But if it doesn't exist, then it will not get past this filter. Let's try it. So I'm gonna run this one while or trigger it, and then we have a look while it runs. So let's go execution. And now we will look at so here it passed, and that is because, as I said earlier, I have not filled in a project allowed budget. If I fill this in, and then I go to Integromat and I want to do this visually, so I run it once again. This is only when you test it, then you click on run once in order to see how it progresses between your modules, right? So I run it once again. I select execution in here, and here I have a look where it doesn't go past the filter. And then you can click on why doesn't this go past, because this one is existing.
Had a value.
Yeah, it had a value. It exists, so it will not go to this last module, which would change it back. And we can verify this by looking here. It actually allowed the change to execution here. We could build upon this and also add that also, okay, let's create an update as well. So for example, if I go for pulse ID, fill in approved budget, please. There we go. Let's have a look at that for Now it's activated, very good. So we're gonna clear this column. We're gonna go back to planning, and then we try to go to execution without filling this in. And let's have a look at what happens. Oh, it gave me a update here saying that, sorry, fill in the approved budget, please. So that is quite nice, and it also goes back to planning here. So then you know why it goes back. So that way you can have certain criteria on a status change in order to allow it, or else it will just go back to the old value again.
I've got a question here. Can Integromat work with dependencies and the relations of them? Like changing one value from the dependent, for example, a number, then it also changes its predecessor and vice versa.
I mean, you could do that because when you access a dependency column, here we have one called predecessor, it's a dependency column. When you access that through Integromat, actually we did build the scenario for this almost. So let's have a look at that one. Then we get the mappable column values. So then we will get the predecessor value as well. So here I can have a look at the mappable column values, and I can look at the dependency. And I can see that it gets a linked pulse ID. So that one I can use in a new get item or a new update column value as and with an iterator if I have many items dependent. So I can use that one in order to actually update another item that this one is dependent on.
Awesome. And then Thanos asks if that status change, can we actually pull the information on who the user actually triggered the event and tag him?
Yeah, we could. Let's see if we can tag it. I never tried that. Fun question. So let's get a user. So here, or actually, let's put that one after the filter. Otherwise, it's unnecessary that it will cost them.
Yeah, it's an unnecessary load.
Yeah. So here we'll also get the user. And the user in this case will, of course, be mapped in as the user ID from the webhook, the one who caused the trigger. And here we will also click on, we will put an at, and let's see if it works. I never tried it. This is so exciting. And we put the name then. That's usually how we do it in Monday. Actually, I'm quite sure it will not work, but let's try it anyway. Now that I think about it, it shouldn't work. But if it works, then I'm super amazed.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. We've got a comment here for you. We go. The most valuable webinar Dimitri's been to during 2021. Oh,
thank you very much. That's nice to hear. I tried it. It didn't work. I'm sorry.
That might be something to explore, though. See if we can pull the user ID instead and see what can be done with that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it will because this module here only sends plain text. Those of you who know or advanced in using Monday API, you could do some exploration on the documentation there for Monday API. You could also have a look at creating a custom app with Integromat as the back end. Because if you have an app, then you can send Monday notifications directly to users. These kind of notifications, so to say. So that you could do if you use the app framework that Monday provides, and then connect that app framework to Integromat.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other webinar.
Yeah, but Thanos, at least with this, you can at least explain in your update who's being the ass, basically.
Yeah, you can just have the name there and their phone number and
home address and all that thing.
Yeah, the email address, you know. But good question, very good question.
Actually, we are nearing that time of the day, we go. I don't know if you had one more scenario.
I'm gonna tease you guys because I had one more, and maybe this one will be a separate webinar then on how to automatically fill a deadline according to a reference table, because we don't have enough time, I'm afraid, to do this one right now. as you could see, if there is time.
But
otherwise,
now,
save it for the next time, right?
Yeah, but now we have a continuation, so we will probably, or we will, I can promise you, do a part 2 to this.
So this is a cliffhanger, so to say.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger. But with that said, everyone, be sure to subscribe both to our YouTube channel, because then you will never miss any webinars, because you will be updated after the fact. And be sure to also subscribe to our newsletter. It's on our website. You go to www.omnitas.se. It's all in English, guys. And subscribe to our newsletter, and you will get the information when the new webinars are put out there. And you will get well in advance. You can reserve your seats, because we are always limiting the number of seats. So it's first serve in this case. So be sure to book your seat in time, because our webinars are getting to be pretty popular. Jorge, I don't know when we'll do part 2, but I know that you are a subscriber to our newsletter, so you will be the first to know when we have the dates.
And I will definitely do a part 2. I feel it. And I mean, this was a lot of fun. We also received the last question here from Natasha. I really have to take it before we end this first. Natasha asked if it's possible to integrate virtually any third-party app with Monday using webhooks with the Integromat, and the answer is yes. You can even find the most obscure API and connect that to Monday with the help of Integromat. I've done that. So
and as Viggo hinted on before, earlier on, you can actually do quite a lot. If you know some API coding, we can actually really deep dive into certain things. Yeah. So we don't even need to rely on pre-built modules and stuff like that. We can actually call on APIs within Integromat, so you can do a lot. And just to give you some really cool thing that Viggo did, it was a bit back now, but we had a partner of ours that we work with from time to time, and they were trying to make a classic custom API build. Couldn't get their head around it really. They were working for a week or something, and then were like, we can't really do this. And then Viggo said, can I have a go at it with Integromat? 3 hours later, he had solved what they couldn't do in a week. So it is an incredibly powerful tool when you master it. So sign up for that account and start playing around.
Great link there that you shared, Fredrik.
Yeah. With that said, guys, that's all from Sweden today. So have a lovely evening or a lovely day, depending on where in the world you are. And that's all from Viggo and me. So take the best of care, everyone.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks for watching. If you like our content, remember to subscribe.